Hey, welcome to a new episode of Nate's MMA Corner. Today's episode is a post-fight recap show for UFC 162. Chris Weidman versus Anderson Silva. What a pay-per-view. This is one of the greatest pay-per-views of all time. I told you so, I told you so, I told you so, I told all you guys so. Chris Weidman would destroy, manhandle Anderson Silva. That on the pre-fight show, if you watch my pre-fight show, I said, out of all the main card fights, this is the most lopsided. Chris Weidman versus Anderson Silva. That it was a big mismatch for Anderson Silva, and Anderson Silva would get destroyed. And Chris Weidman would be our new UFC middleweight champ. And now let's do a rundown of the main card of UFC 162. The pay-per-view kicked off with our local boy, or my local boy, in the Coachella Valley area, Cub Swanson versus Dennis Siver, a UFC veteran. And yeah, quick story about this match is back in November, I ran into Cub Swanson. Back in November of last year, 2012, I ran into Cub Swanson and I said, you know, a good matchup for you would be Dennis Siver. Fast forward to this pay-per-view, whatever reason, rhyme reason, however, just things the way it panned out, he fought Dennis Siver. And it turned out it was a good test for Cub Swanson, because in this match, Cub had to deal with Siver's great grappling, great striking. It was a hard-fought fight. And yeah, Cub won in round 3 by TKO in the middle of round 3. It was a hard-fought war, though. It wasn't easy. Things were tested. And Siver's no slouch. They're both, Cub and Siver are both ranked in the top 10. Good job, Cub. Happy for you. God bless you and your family. Steve, the rest of them, all the people at True MMA. All you guys are cool guys. And so Cub was ranked number 5 in featherweight division UFC before this fight. Now, he just won this match. UFC, if you're watching, just give him a title shot. Come on, just give him a title shot. Let's not, you know, milk this to have him have to win a bunch of up-team more matches. He's already proven himself. How many other featherweights finish their fights the way he does? I see a lot of featherweight fights drag out to decisions, hard-fought decisions, and Cub just finishes his opponents. He times his punches right. He knows how to do his strikes, his grappling, everything. Just give the guy a title shot. He wants a rematch against Jose Aldo. Give it to him. He wants a shot at the belt. Let's be honest with ourselves. Jose Aldo will probably beat Chang Sung Jung. So when we talk about title shots in featherweight, we're talking about, for the time being, Jose Aldo. Then, so that wraps up that match. Then in the middleweight division, we had Mark Munoz versus Tim Boetsch. What did I tell you, dude? Mark Munoz was just that much better than Tim Boetsch at everything. And he had better cardio, better wrestling, better just slightly everything. And good job, Mark Munoz. Proud of you. He was ranked number 8, I believe. Now he has to be in the top 7 at least after a performance like that. So he's knocking on the door of a title shot. I hope you get it, Mark. I know you want a rematch with Chris Weidman. That would be interesting to see if things work in your favor in the rematch. Good luck. Then, also in the middleweight division, we had Tim Kennedy versus edgar Gracie. Again, what did I tell you? Tim Kennedy would be able to stay out of the grappling game or avoid submissions of edgar Gracie, land more punches. And that's exactly what happened, is Tim Kennedy won a decision, landed a lot more strikes. Good job, Tim Kennedy. Proud of you. Yeah, 2 Strikeforce guys, Tim Kennedy and edgar Gracie. I've followed both their careers in Strikeforce, both talented fighters. Both fun to watch. edgar Gracie is really tall for a middleweight, or just tall in general for any weight class. I believe 6'4". So Tim Kennedy took care of business. And I am so Happy for him. He's a nice guy. Like I said on my pre-fight show, met him. Real nice guy. Army Ranger sniper. Proud of you. Then in the co-main event, we had Frankie Edgar versus Charles Oliveira in a featherweight bout, co-main event. And what did I tell you? Dude, Frankie Edgar just was that much better at everything that Charles Oliveira had, except for maybe the jiu-jitsu department, but even that, Frankie Edgar's not bad at. And he was able to avoid submissions and land more strikes. It was pretty much a stand-up war. Great fight. Yeah, I don't blame the UFC for giving 2 fight of the nights. Plus, there was no submission tonight, or any submission on this whole entire event. So they gave 2 fight of the nights, one to the Frankie Edgar Charles Oliveira fight, and one to the Cub Swanson Dennis Siver fight. And I don't blame them. They both earned it. Those were great fights. Again, this whole pay-per-view is one of the greatest pay-per-views of all time. Then we get to the main event. Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman. Anderson Silva, ha ha, ha ha. Overrated, I've said it all along. He's fought guys that either got cut by the UFC or whatever. And it was just, I kept saying it all the time. I said, Anderson Silva, it's just a matter of time before he faces someone that's truly talented in every sense of the way. And when he does, it won't be a good night for him. And Chris Weidman is that guy. Chris Weidman is now 10-0. He's a UFC middleweight champ. He finished him off by KO in the second round as Anderson Silva was doing his robot chicken dance, whatever you want to call it. And he's like, oh, no one's going to hit me, blah, blah, blah. I'm so tough guy. Look at me. And then, BAM! Chris Weidman lands it. And the world is stunned. Stunned! So Chris Weidman is now 10-0. And there's talk that Anderson Silva wants to fight Roy Jones Jr. in a boxing match. Chris Weidman wants a rematch with Anderson Silva to prove the doubters that this fight wasn't a fluke and whatever else. Chris Weidman's the man. He's a man with a plan. And to all you Anderson Silva fans out there, well, I just gotta say, go to your local grocery store. I'm sure they have boxes of tissue on sale. And go have a fun night going to the grocery store, buying boxes of tissues. Chris Weidman, congratulations. Raising that American flag just 2 days after 4th of July, ironically. And you're the first American middleweight UFC champion since like 06, I believe it was. So really proud of you, Chris Weidman. And that pretty much wraps up the post-fight show for UFC 162. Stay tuned for the pre-fight, my next episode, which is the pre-fight show for UFC on Fox, which is the flyweight title fight, Demetrius Johnson versus John Moraga. That will hopefully be a good fight. We'll see. John Moraga's only had a couple fights in the UFC, and Demetrius Johnson, if you don't know who he is, then you don't watch the UFC. So until then, see ya.